Happy New Year to you. This is the first of the topical issues we're doing at the start of the new year. I hope you're going to have a wonderful new year. My new year is starting with I've still got my Kataka in me. Other than that, I'm great. But here we go. I would imagine not many of you can say you haven't seen what happened in the United States recently in its capital, Washington, D.C. Some would describe it as an attack on the democratic process, and some said it is the worst day, it is the darkest day in American history. Now, all this that took place in Washington was urged on by the President of the United States, Mr. Donald Trump. This is a man who said that the media is the enemy of the people. And one of the things that is problematic is when power is concentrated in the hands of one man. Now, I'm not going to go through any extent of what happened in America, except to say this to you. One of the things that saved them and will continue to save the Americans, they live on the law. This is critical. They live on the law, and there's the division of powers, and they have institutions that work.
This is not dissent. It's disorder. It's chaos. It borders on sedition.
I am now going to focus on Grenada because it's important that we understand what it means to live on the law. Can I say to you?
Big ideas can come from anyone, anywhere, anyone willing to create change. They can come from future makers like you. The Caribbean needs your big ideas to create positive change. Your radical ideas can propel us into a more resilient future. Your ambitious ideas can make our region stronger and better. For more information on how to join the movement, go to www.caribbeanpivot.com. Will you make a moonshot? Let's innovate.
Can I say to you, when I arrived in Grenada back in the 80s, this is just after the Americans had invaded Grenada, a priest took me aside and he said, Stanley, you've made a mistake. You should not have come to this country. He says, Grenadians have their brains on fixed deposit. He says, Grenadians don't think and they don't read. Setting up a radio station here, all it's going to do is cause you pain, Stanley. You should go back to England. Now, needless to say, I just arrived. I didn't take too kindly. Obviously, it's a priest speaking to me, and I received what he said with respect, but at the same time resented it. Because I thought it's very insulting to say that Grenadians have their brains on fixed deposit, and also Grenadians do not read. As you're aware, Grenadians themselves will always say, if you want to hide something from a Grenadian, put it in a book. I'm not going to dwell on this too long, but it is upsetting. Now, one of the things that has always bothered me is how come Grenadians are scared of politicians? And this goes right back to Sir Eric Gairy. There used to be a time when Grenadians got beaten, bullied, just for reading a newspaper called The New Jewel, a newspaper. And they had something called a secret police. So Grenadians are fearful of politicians. Dr. Kit Mitchell has mastered the art. As I said, I have a Kataka in me, so you can excuse me for peeing on myself without knowing. But you can't, if you mention Kit Mitchell to Grenadians, they pee themselves instantly. Fear, just the fear. And some of them, they'll have a run on the tummy because just the fear. Once you say Kit Mitchell, the fear of Kit Mitchell, and you wonder, well, why? Well, I think maybe I have the answer of why Grenadians are so fearful of Kit Mitchell. You've heard of Dorsett, Charles, because we've covered Dorsett on several times on topical issues. Dorsett Charles' business and grand speech was destroyed by Dr. Mitchell. There's no if and here saying. He destroyed the man's business, hiding behind the state apparatus. Dorsett Charles took the Prime Minister to court, of course it's the state, and won. And the core arm of the state the courts ordered that Dorsett Charles be paid a significant amount of money. The Prime Minister refused to pay that money. He will not obey the order of the court. Remember, this is a lawmaker.
The law of the land must be adhered to. The Prime Minister has to obey the law of the land. No one, Mr. Speaker, should be allowed to do as they wish because they're bigger than everybody else.
I start by talking about the importance of living under law. In Grenada, we live under law. We do not live under Kit Mitchell. But he is above the law. Despite what he says, he is above the law. So he has destroyed Dorsett Charles' business, destroyed the man as a human being. If you see Dorsett, you cry. At the same time, I was able to see information that was privileged in Anselm's office because Anselm represents Dorsett Charles and Anselm is a friend of mine. So over a glass of wine, I saw the information which basically said, and I can't quote it because obviously it's privileged. And what it says is the government needed a week or two and it will pay Dorsett Charles his money because the government did not have any money and it wanted to get its budget together and it will pay Dorsett. Now this has happened. Budget has come and gone. The government has no intention of paying Dorsett, and despite, and this is critical, you have to have confidence in your government. And if the government will state that it's broke, it has no money, it cannot pay its citizens money that it owes to a citizen, but it can find over 63 million US dollars to pay for shares in Grenada. Now, I'm not here to decide whether or not it's right or wrong in terms of buying shares. That's not the issue. What is the issue is the government is supposed to protect us. Every citizen of Grenada should be protected by the government. You care for your citizen. You are unable to pay Dorsett Charles's money after you have abused him and destroyed his property and destroy him as a person. This is the handiwork of Dr. Kit Mitchell. And you know, there's no getting away from it. He cannot pay Dorsett, but he can find over 60 odd million US dollars to buy shares in Grenada. How does that count?
Big ideas can come from anyone, anywhere, anyone willing to create change. They can come from future makers like you. The Caribbean needs your big ideas to create positive change. Your radical ideas can propel us into a more resilient future. Your ambitious ideas can make our region stronger and better. For more information on how to join the movement, go to www.caribbeanpivot.com. Will you make a moonshot? Let's innovate.
Stand together and defeat Corona.
Nobody's safe until everybody's safe. Oh, me, I want to be safe. Oh.
Stand together and defeat Corona.
Now, let me turn to one of my favorite topics that I don't understand in Grenada. The education system is bankrupt. You will see nobody protesting about it. We have one of the better architecture in terms of health and its delivery. However, the system is poorly managed and there's a series of weaknesses that ought to be addressed. You wouldn't see Grenadians complaining because, as I say, Grenadians are shit scared of politicians. But I want to now draw a contrast with, there is a country in East Africa called Uganda.
The reason why I am wearing a bulletproof jacket and a ballistic helmet is because I expect a live bullet targeted at me anytime. I have had to evacuate my family and sneak them out of the country because my family also has been targeted, and we had information that my children park on the side of the road. Officer, I am on a press conference, officer. You see, as we speak right now, I am being harassed by a police officer for simply parking on the side of the road to talk to the press.
You are captured in the evening, you are blocking as a road user.
As you can see, I'm being arrested.
This is a presidential candidate.
There's a young man there called Bobby Wine. Robert Shogolani, Bobby Wine. He has decided to take part in the presidential election. His people are being killed, murdered. You're seeing it on camera. Police running over people with their cars. Don't give a hoots, but yet still, these people are standing up because they want to be free. And what do they say? We are getting rid of a dictator, and therefore they are prepared to stand this. And I wonder, in Grenada, given that in real terms we are free in real terms, except we don't know it, why aren't we able to make a stand? And I'll say this to you. I am not an expert, but the good and the great is supposed to take care of us. And now I come directly to the Bar Association in Grenada. The Bar Association in Grenada appears to suffer from hearing loss, a great degree of hearing loss. And the Bar Association, their vision is impaired. Now let me explain this. In most countries, the Bar Association have sneak preview of various laws before it become laws. And they see that first. And they are there to act in our interest, to protect us, make sure that justice is delivered to us. You wouldn't hear them say anything about Dorsett, Charles, or any of the serious cases before the courts. And you ask yourself, why? Now, I'm not an expert, but an expert who've studied what's going on in Trinidad, her view of it is, people like our Bar Association are what is called house niggers.
And you old decrepit bastard ought to show them every hospitality. You understand that?
Yes, sir. Him, I understand, but I don't know why I got to take lip off this
You
nigga.
don't have to know why. Do you understand?
Yes, sir. I understand.
Well, good. Let's spend the night. Go up in the guest bedroom to get too ready.
He gonna stay in the big house?
Black people who worked in the slave master's home. Here is her explanation of a house nigger.
Colonialism in Trinidad would have worked where I want to use the term like house slave, right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm allowed to. And so if we know if we know how the house slaves would have operated, it would have been where they would have been in the home. They would have been in the home, not so much serving in the fields. They would have been servants, as in I am serving the master from within the home. I have the ability to serve the master from a different lens. And in Trinidad, it appears where that kind of servitude, serving the master, has become the norm here.
Okay.
Right? And so when you go into systems, the norm is serving whatever. Let's say we turn the master into the system. And now the people are, the mindset is where serving the master again is the norm. The system is the priority. And I need to put myself on the back burner in order to serve the system, which is essentially I'm serving the master. Because because I am okay with serving the master because I was in the house, right? I wasn't in the field. I wasn't in the yard. So I was in the house. Right. So I'm okay with serving the master because I have a good gig. And so in Trinidad now, what happens is those in the middle class, they have an okay gig, right? You might have a good job in the bank. You might have a good job as a service person, which is like the police officers, the firemen, and things like that. So once you have an okay gig, serving the master, which is now the system, it's fine for you because you have an okay gig. You're not out there, as a homeless person, or you're not out there as a person. So you're not less than is what you're not considered.
Big ideas can come from anyone, anywhere, anyone willing to create change. They can come from future makers like you. The Caribbean needs your big ideas to create positive change. Your radical ideas can propel us into a more resilient future. Your ambitious ideas can make our region stronger and better. For more information on how to join the movement, go to www.caribbeanpivot.com. Will you make a moonshot? Let's innovate.
Now here is Dr. Mitchell, and he claims that we all are equal before the law and nobody is above the law.
The law of the land must be adhered to. The Prime Minister has to obey the law of the land.
Now, Dr. Mitchell perhaps think we all are stupid and don't give us, much credence. Now, Dr. Mitchell created his own opposition. Again, nobody speaks out about that. Here is a man who is vindictive, he is malicious, and he hides behind the states. And Dorsett charges it as an example of how he will get you and destroy you. Now, a member of the NNP party crossed the floor and formed himself into a laughable opposition. It's a fraud carried out against its people. If Dr. Mitchell is so vindictive and his history speaks to it, not me, his history speaks to it, you think he's going to allow somebody to walk away from his party and become an opposition leader? This guy is a puppet. It's fraudulent. And only in Grenada this could happen because Grenadians are weak and spineless. Dr. Mitchell spoke in the House once for 2 days during a debate on the budget. 2 days. Nobody tried to stop him from speaking. One of the first things he did when he became Prime Minister was to limit the time you can speak in Parliament. Because this is not a man who entertains opposition. Here is a man who expects you to think like him, and anything he says is the greatest thing since sliced bread. So you ask yourself, well, what do you do when justice is denied you? Can you then be surprised when people turn to self-help justice?
What they should do for me? They should be paying me my money.
Yeah.